Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Join us on this week's Wrap podcast, where we will welcome the return of Drink of the Week. We will discuss everything to do with Judgement Day and Cardiff. We'll discuss Cardiff as well. Let's get on with the show. You're listening to Wrap, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Wrap Podcast. Joining me as per usual, Nick, Jamie and Harley. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening. How you doing?
So, been a quiet week as always in Welsh Rugby, gents, and everything happens on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Absolute bloody nightmare, but there we go. So we will talk about the events of last week and various other different things as we progress through the pod. But because it's Judgement Day coming up and it's a bit of a special one, we're going to bring back Drink of the Week because we can, because it's the Easter holidays, the kids are on holiday, and we can do that now. So who let's go to Jamie. Jamie yes. can start off Drink of the Week, and let's have a drum roll. Is it a Tiny Rebel, Jim?
It's absolutely not. It's actually better than that. So this is a special beer. I had this for Christmas off my brother. I've been waiting for an opportunity to drink it. And this week is the week. So this is AC/DC beer. Hey. It's called 50 Years. And it's an IPA celebrating 50 years of the band. There is wanky bollocks on you. I don't want to read it all, but it's just basically talking about AC/DC when they were founded and the global success they had. I mean, they are one of the world's biggest and best rock bands, aren't they? So I haven't actually tried it yet. So here goes. That's nice. That's really, really nice. It's got like a caramel tinge to it. It tastes quite lagery as well for an IPA, if you see what I mean. But look, AC/DC glass as well on YouTube. You can see. Man. So yeah, it's lovely. I'm a big fan of that AC/DC 50 years. So yeah, that's my drink of the week. Cheers, everyone. So,
where's that made then? Where'd your brother get that from?
I think I don't know where you got it from. Probably one of the supermarkets, I'm guessing. I'm trying to look at where it's brewed.
This is the exciting part of the show.
It's great radio.
Oh, it's brewed in Scotland, actually, which is interesting.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, yeah. Angus Young and Malcolm Young were from Scotland.
That's right, yeah. Then they emigrated to Australia. Brewed and bottled by Williams Brothers Brewing Company in Scotland. There we are. So, yeah, AC/DC, 50 years.
AC/DC for Jim. Okay, so Nick, I think this is your first.
It is.
Your first drink of the week, isn't it? Okay.
It is indeed.
No pressure, but Jamie's got a 50-year-old bottle
I've gone
of AC/DC.
For Wrexham Lager.
Good choice.
Obviously brewed locally for me. And the Wanky Bollocks says brewed since 1882. A subtle hopped lager with a clean aroma, light, refreshing, and easy to drink. And it is. It is a fairly. I'll be honest with you, not my favourite lager, but it's obviously historic. You might know who the owners of this company in these days are. You might be able to guess. A certain Mr. McElhenney and Mr. Reynolds. But the actual history is quite interesting. There were two German immigrants who didn't like the local ales that were available and decided they would bring in a Pilsner. And I think it's the actual oldest lager that's brewed in the UK. So that's mine, a Wrexham lager.
There you go. See, Harley, you got.
I'm letting the side down because as I explained off here, I had an absolute torrid time last week. I was thinking of not bothering with podding anymore. Anyway, so I didn't get anything in, and so what I've got is a Strongbow Dark Fruits.
That's it.
Nothing else. I can relive my teenage years.
Well, crying in the corner and then throwing up on your way home. Just me on that then. Well,
what do you got, Lee?
I've got a can. I don't like cans as a rule. I try to avoid them. I prefer a bottled one. But this is from the Vacation Brewery. It's an incognito double IPA. I made the mistake again of choosing based on the can. Let me see if I can get there. So it's a little bit like that. It's quite a cool one there. I'm not looking at the percentage, so it's 7.6%, which I've gone schoolboy error again. But on this one, it's got a bit of blah 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 blah, and then a combination of Cascade, Continental, Chinook, and Galaxy hops deliver an unmistakable hit of zesty citrus with underlying whispers of a tropical fruit and something pine, resinous pine. Now that's top class wanky bollocks. That is, it's beer, boys. Wanky fucking resinous pine. Anyway, cheers to that, gents. Enjoy your beer. We should. By the way, some people said they didn't like us doing drink of the week and all of that. Since we started doing it, pretty much every other pod has done at least one, and there is one other podcast that absolutely that is their advertising point. That's all they go on about is we drink beer while we do the pod. So, I think we started
it's the camera podcast, to be fair.
Right, on that, Jamie, all yours with News Desk, my friend.
Yes, it's been a quiet week in Welsh rugby, hasn't it? Not much going on. Gosh. Right, let's get the re-signings news out of the way. So, Ospreys, Wales forward, Rhys Davies, he signed a new deal with the Ospreys. Very good player, but unfortunately he has had wretched luck with injury and he was forced off injured in Ospreys' defeat to Lyon, which I'm sure Nick will talk about later. But yeah, good news for the Ospreys, that. Dragons, very busy securing signatures for the young stars. So they have tied down their Wales under-20 boys to new deals. So Evan Minto, Nick Thomas, Harry Rees-Weldon and Logan Franklin have signed new deals. Wales under-19's captain Ryan Jones has joined the Dragons Academy system on a full-time basis, having previously combined rugby with employment. I'm hearing very good things about Ryan Jones. He's one to watch for, apparently. So, be keeping an eye on him. And then Dragons signed Wales under-19's pair Cody Purnell and James Talamai from Bath and Saracens, respectively. So I kind of like this. I think what we're doing now is what Cardiff did last season when they're bringing young Welsh talent back from England over the bridge. I think it's good. I think that's a good strategy. So, again, I'm hearing good things about these pairs. So, I'm very excited about that. And in news today, they've announced that Dragons have re-signed Argentinian international loosehead Rodrigo Martinez. So, that's pretty decent. Get a bit of depth now at loosehead. So that's all the re-signings news done. Now, Cardiff. So there were rumours for months about Cardiff's financial problems, and lo and behold, the rumours were true. Last week, it was confirmed that Cardiff had entered administration and they would be taken over by the WRU because Helford Capital had failed to meet their financial obligations. WRU Chief Exec Abby Tierney said, "It is unthinkable for us to allow the demise of professional rugby in the Welsh capital." So as a result of the union stepping in, 150 jobs have been saved. And the union's acquisition of Cardiff Rugby have cost them 780k That's what the governing body has confirmed. Abby Tierney also confirmed that the delay on getting a new PRA deal signed off was caused by Cardiff's financial crisis, but she said the union are determined to get it over the line. And today it's been reported that WRU chair Richard Collier-Keywood has sent an email to the Dragons, Ospreys and Scarlets demanding that they sign the new PRA before close of play on Tuesday, April 15th, which is tomorrow. So yeah, we've all heard the news. We all know what's going on at Cardiff now. Harley, do you want to reflect on the past events at Cardiff?
Yeah, I mean, before I go into my own personal thing, I'd just like to say the guys on Cardiff Central were joined by Lynn Glaister, CF10 chair. They cover this really, really well. Last week, please go check. I think YouTube's doing pretty big numbers because misery loves company, as we always say in Welsh rugby. I mean, for me, it's a fairly simple situation. What happened? The two choices who took over said, we've got all this money, all this investment, but we've got the funds that any loss we can underwrite, which is a benefactor deal. And then their investments in Dubai and the Middle East and sponsorship deals didn't come through. So then they had to put some of their own money in, and they decided they didn't want to do that and left us at Shit Creek without a paddle. So, you've now got a club which is famed for how much they resent in the WRU, having to do a 180 and say thank you very much for keeping us afloat. This wasn't out of the kindness of this house. This wasn't just because it was Cardiff and the capital region. There's a lot of financial reasons behind it. One, URC and EPCR penalties if we drop a team. So in that respect, they would have to do it for any one of us. But also for them, things like access to the Principality. So a lot of their hospitality stuff and how they get stuff in and out, and TV crews, they park on cap, and that is part of the deal through Cardiff Rugby that Cardiff Rugby have with Cardiff Athletic Club. So as much as a bit of it is, we've got to save rugby in the capital region, there is a lot of business sense, and yes, it may have cost them 700 or 1,000, but it's cost them several million if they let us go, and that's the crux of it there. New board, I think there's a bit of an argument of how much should the board be to blame, how should WRU be to blame with due diligence. Obviously Richard Holland introduced these guys to the WRU and said these are the guys I'm thinking of bringing on as benefactors. WRU they hired a company to do the due diligence, which by the sound of it, anyone can pass due diligence if you say, look, I've got all this money, so yes, I can pay that. But if they turn around and say I'm not going to pay it, then you can't really do much about it. So, yeah, I mean, it was the icing on top of a very shit cake they had last week. So I'm quite happy to move on. Just be grateful we've still got rugby at cap.
Yeah, we're not doing that, Harley. You've got a couple of minutes on it yet, mate. So, what's the fan reaction? And we know what the fan reaction has been like in our own regions and what have you. So, but at Cardiff, I mean, how much of it was, thank God we've still got a team, well done WRU. How much of it was anger? How much of it, do you know what I mean? What was the reaction like from fans?
It was a big mix. So I mean, I think I'm with the same people, just sort of going through. It was almost like going through a bereavement of, just couldn't believe it was happening for a start when the rumours were coming out. Thinking, it's just typical. Cardiff always has financial issues. This will play through, and then just anger at the board, anger at WRU for passing these guys on due diligence, anger at the two guys who've basically gone scot-free. Phil and Neil, and never trust two guys called Phil and Neil. This is my my son there, but. And then, a lot of it is and it's quite nice seeing a lot of other regional fans' responses as well. And, there were don't get me wrong, there was lots of piss takes, which I'll be honest, if those particular accounts hadn't been taking the piss, I'd have been worried. But there was an awful lot of heartfelt messages, even when Ed Jenks is saying, I'm sorry for your loss, sort of thing, something just doesn't feel quite right.
he's setting you up for something. When Ed's nice to you, he's setting you up for something, isn't he? So, I mean, there were some Cardiff supporters, and we all know we were talking about this, that haven't been particularly nice about other regions and the financial state of other regions, and it kind of left certain parts of the Cardiff supporter base running with a tail between their legs. And I think it's important to distinguish between those guys and other supporters. Yeah, there are people who through last week would have been genuinely, near to tears at the thought that their club might not exist, and that might have been a genuine kind of fear at some point of last week. So yes, there are some people on Twitter and social media that kind of encouraged the environment in which people have a go at them. But then I would say the vast majority of Cardiff supporters are not like that. I'd say the vast majority of them, if that was happening to any of our clubs, to our regions, then yeah, we'd be devastated and we'd just be hiding under a rock for a week. So, I think we need to kind of keep that in check. So, Nick, Jamie, any thoughts on particularly things like the board getting away with it and finances, anything like that? Either of you two want to chirp up on those?
Nick, do you want to go first? Because I had my
Okay,
say on Dragons Lair.
I'm not so much about the board. For once, I thought the WRU and obviously through their get my words out, it's the Wrexham Lager spokesperson, obviously Richard Colley-Gayward and Abitini, thought they handled things pretty well. They've had obviously a lot of time to prepare for this. It's been alluded to in certain meetings that I've been to about work that was going on in the background, and as the WRU come out and said, they've known about this about some time. So yeah, I think they've acted sensibly, moved it forward as best they can. Obviously, as a supporter of another regional club, being totally selfish, I want to know it's not going to have a detrimental effect on any financial considerations for the Ospreys. But the underlying principle of supporting Cardiff in their time of need, I fully endorse.
Yeah. It's absolutely right. The WRU stepped in for Cardiff just as it was when they stepped in for the Dragons. They are the capital city. I know there's some people saying, well, just because they're capital city, why should they step in? But come on, I mean, the population, the business base, the history and heritage of Cardiff Rugby, there's no way that WRU are ever going to let Cardiff go to the wall. And they've done the right thing. And Harley has already mentioned it earlier, something that I always talk about when people debate about cutting a team. There are financial consequences to that. We are contractually obliged to provide 4 teams to EPCR and URC. So if a team goes, or if a W cuts a team, they are going to get penalised quite heavily financially. So it was really important. I have no issues with it. All I hope is, and I'll be honest about it, I do hope Cardiff come under the same level of scrutiny as Dragons did when we was under union ownership, because you got absolutely hammered by the vocal minority of Cardiff fans. So we all know who they are. I spoke about it on Dragons Lair last night. They gave pelters to David Buttress, called him all sorts of names. Walter Mitty, snake oil salesman and all this sort of thing. And there was constant allegations of we had 10 million extra of funds that the other teams didn't have, and all this nonsense, campaigning for us to be closed down. And I just want Cardiff fans now to understand what it was like for Dragons fans, and there are going to be those allegations. It will happen. But it's sad. I don't want it to happen. I am an advocate of 4 teams, and it does feel like you're fighting against the tide, isn't it, when you come out and say you want 4 teams. But yeah, I want Cardiff to come on the same level of scrutiny as we did. But it was absolutely right that WRU step in to help Cardiff. I think it was the right decision. But let's have the same level of transparency and scrutiny that we had when we was under union ownership. I think that's only fair.
But I think there's a couple of things that have been done to help with that. So first of all, when WRU took over Dragons, they just absorbed it into part of the WRU's thing. So the accounts, there was accusations that the accounts got muddled in, whereas Cardiff has been brought under a completely separate subgroup. It's its own separate entity. So obviously one thing that is going to happen is because WRU are technically our benefactors, they will underwrite any shortfall from the budget. What I imagine that means more than any. So they've said that they expect £1 million per season that they're going to have to underwrite. And everyone else, but that won't affect anyone else's funding because of the PRA is fixed funding. It's not determined by anything. But what I will imagine is they'll probably try and run Cardiff at a tighter budget than maybe the other regions would have to, so that they can minimise how much they have to put in themselves extra, is the understanding I got during that press conference with Abby and Richard Collier-Keywood. So that's the thing. So hopefully it should be a lot easier to scrutinise because it's separate companies, so those accounts will be a separate entity in itself. I think the important thing is this transition happened really quickly and really smoothly. They're already working and doing all the legal stuff with bank accounts so we can get the ticketing open. I'd encourage everyone in 2 weeks' time, hack out Cap for the last home game against Munster, and let's just try and show our support for the club. Show the WRU that it was worth fighting for. I did a quick back of fact calculation. Cardiff tickets are 40% of regional gate this season. That is a big chunk of people we need to make sure we keep going and putting money into the coffers.
That is not a quick calculation to do, Harley. That was on one of your spreadsheets, and you were waiting till the end of this season to bring that one out, weren't you?
I've done a similar, very quick calculation just now while you're introducing it, and Cardiff's capacity is 8,000. Attendance average this year is 8,060.25, and I just this second managed to work that out.
Do you like CRFC fans as well? CRFC fans, so it's great. You've put all the attendances in. I even counted for the fact that about 30% of the gates in for Cardiff for the game at Cap is Scarlets fans for that derby.
So the one bit on Twitter that I saw and I kind of opened up my eyes to was, is there a points penalty like there is in football? Because there were two things going through my head there. There's like, oh my God, Dragons might not finish bottom of the table. And then actually that makes qualifying for the top 8 a little bit better. And all of a sudden, I put my hands up into this, and for a couple of minutes I was like, oh, this right. And then Martin, Big M, kind of gave me a slap down and went, stop it. This isn't no, let's not punish the players for the fault of everything else. And I was, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Morally, I suppose you're right, Mart. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I'll let you have that one.
That's football. If it was a football, yeah, they do get deducted points for administration, but that won't happen in the URC. So
I think
a quick
Premiership
note.
has something like that, but I think it's different because it's union owned and stuff.
Yeah, URC don't do it. I was just about to say it'd be interesting to see sort of how long the union keep Cardiff. Now, with the Dragons, yes, it did take 6 years, but people forget that COVID interrupted the negotiation, so it was paused. It never would have taken 6 years had we never had COVID. So I don't think there'd be any rush. I think Cardiff would be quite happy to let the WRU have control for a couple of years, and I do believe Abby Tierney said, and they plan to have it for 2 years. But it will be interesting to see the parties to step forward and show the interest, because the biggest problem Cardiff have is they don't own the ground. If they had control of Cardiff Arms Park, unfortunately Cardiff Athletic Club do, but if they had control of that, it would be a lot more attractive to investors, because you're asking somebody to come in, put a lot of money into Cardiff, and you're not going to get a return, and they don't even have an asset. And that was where David Buttress knew when he took over the Dragons. He knew he was going to get Ronnie Parade. He didn't tell us that at first, mind. We was told he was going to be a lease. But then afterwards, we found out he's got Ronnie Parade, so he has an asset. But it just needs someone to come in who has a deep love and affinity for Cardiff Rugby, be prepared to put a lot of money in and expect to get nothing back. Is there anyone out there who will do that?
Or someone's would be, I think, probably the better.
Consortium. Yeah.
Consortium. Yeah. But it's interesting you say about this not owning ground, because again on the press conference they said actually that's why it was quite easy to the administration process was really easy for Cardiff because they haven't got any assets, so the administrators couldn't seize the ground and flog that off.
Yeah.
No.
So having CAC owning it was actually a bit of a saviour for us.
Well, I think the key thing is that Cardiff will come out. It'll be a hard slog, and it'll be a difficult couple of years. But I think Cardiff will come out of this better in the same way the Dragons have. You know, where you can see Dragons coming out of it with an asset, with a stronger board, and with a all right. The rugby has maybe suffered a little, but you can see how the building blocks there are coming out. I think it was the first announcement that Buttress made after they got taken out of WRU control was an investment in the academy and how the academy was going to be the way going forward. And we're 12 months. How far down the line are we now, Jimmy? 12 months? Is it 12 months ago you guys came out of WRU control?
Yeah, I think it's about 18 months now, wasn't it? But yeah, you are right. I mean, off the field, Dragons are in the strongest position of any of the Welsh teams. So being under WRU ownership did help from that perspective. Now, of course, on the field, it wasn't exactly a rip-roaring success where the Union was in charge of us. However, this currently is our worst ever season, and we're now under Union ownership. So I do think Cardiff will come back stronger from this. And, you know, there is potential for their finances to improve a hell of a lot more after, you know, the WRU was stepped aside and new investors come in. But it will be interesting to see how long that'll take. And yeah, I still want the same level of scrutiny as, you know, what we got, because I think it's only fair. And this won't go away. You will get, because I've already seen Christ 16, the Scarlet supporters group, they put out a letter straight away, didn't they? Literally the day after. We want assurances from the WRU. How is it going to affect our funding? So all the problems the Dragons had and the stuff that we were accused of, Cardiff will have it. They absolutely will, whether they like it or not. But yeah, it is what it is. It's the right thing to do.
I guess a bit of a challenge might be for Cardiff is in not so much retention, sorry, new players coming in. Imagine now you're in advanced talks and you're South African, Australian, New Zealand or whatever, Fijian, and you've had advanced talks with Cardiff. You've also had talks with the Dragons. You've also had talks with Newcastle. Well, that's probably not if you've had both, but you know what I'm saying is you haven't actually signed on the dotted line. Might it make you think, well, actually, I'm not sure about going to Cardiff?
I don't know. I don't know if it'll affect their recruitment that much, to be honest. What I will say, though, when the Dragons were under Union control, I always felt our signings were scrutinised a lot more than the others because the Union were paying for. So when we signed a big name player, you know, when we signed, for example, Jamie Roberts or Jonah Holmes or Nick Tompkins, it was always, oh, have the Union got the money to do that then? Dragons getting all this extra fun. It was all that sort of bollocks going on. So again, you know, I don't know if Cardiff are going to make any big name signings. I don't think it's going to affect their recruitment that much. But yeah, that's the problem when you're under Union control is you do get things thrown at you that particularly aren't fair. But that's the problem when you've got three independent teams and one Union-owned team, isn't it?
Okay, so we'll park it there because, like I say, it's a subject that's been done to death, and the Cardiff Central pod was particularly interesting this week, and you know the guys on that pod and Lynn were absolutely bang on with where they needed to be. So do give that a listen. So while I'm talking about listening to other bits and bobs, so there's a little bit of women's rugby to talk about, and there's a little bit of under-18s rugby to talk about. Is that right, Nick? So Harley, women's rugby that we've got for the last week.
So women's rugby treehouse. So Sean, Hattie, and Julia are now sort of branching it. They're going off on their own now. You know, we've taken the training wheels off. I've decided if I'm not going to speak on the pod, there's no point signing on anymore. So I'm just going to let them do it because they are doing a fantastic job. They're far more knowledgeable than the three people I'm currently talking to.
I'd agree.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, so they did their sort of France preview yesterday. So I believe the plan is to do a review of the France game and preview Ireland coming up this week. They'll go into all depth it, but sort of headlines. weren't too fussed on Sean Lynn's bench. Going for 6-2. Thought the makeup wasn't quite right. I think that this sort of proved they were right. But actually, considering we were 40 points to 0 at home last year. I think actually going down 42-12 in Breve was actually quite a good result, and we frustrated France a lot, and we just ran out of steam second half. But please do listen to the ladies talk, because it is just generally worth interesting, even when it's out of date. I found it really interesting topics discussed.
So you'll hear us call it the Women's Rugby Treehouse, because that's what we will rebrand it to. If you're looking for it at the minute, it's rap as in double R, W, double.
It's a quadruple U.
Double W RAP. Just because I like to confuse myself, and I just like the name rap. So if you are looking for it, but it'll be on our socials as well with that one. So Nick, under 18s.
Yeah,
Is there any 20s news as well?
Yeah, well, just I think they've announced the squad for the 20s. Under 18s are currently on a tournament in Vichy in southern France. They had a really good win against Ireland. And I don't know, they were winning. It was a close game against Georgia. But obviously, the idea of these tournaments, these festivals, is to give experience to players. So it was virtually a different team they put out against Georgia. They were just ahead. I don't know what the final score was, because obviously we started recording. But I think for me, and I did call
17-12 to us.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, coming into 20, under
so
2
out of 2.
One.
And I also called in on the way back from the weekend in Merthyr and watched the first half there. And I'm going to refer, I did an interview with Richie Pugh, former Ospreys Scarlet player, currently in the coaching setup, currently head coach in the under 18s, but also involved in the 20s. And I think the pathway is certainly improving. What's impressed me, and certainly yesterday, is the physicality that we have struggled with at international level at that age, in those age groups in the past. We seem to be starting to address that. Jamie alluded to Ryan Jones from the Dragons just signed. He was impressive. The bit I saw yesterday. Kyle James, I think, is the Hartbury Lee. He was really good for the bit I saw for the under 19s. Luke Evans is a bloody monster in the second row. So we've got players coming through that will, with the right coaching, with the right development, allow us to at least compete physically in the future, whereas we've really struggled to get over the gain line in lots of our international rugby. So if anybody wants to listen to my interview, Richie, he's a really spot-on guy, and he'll talk more about the pathways and his hopes for that. And it's available on the Ospreys Erie. Perhaps you could send a link out, Lee.
I will do on the Irie.
Erie. Ospreys Erie.
Oh, boys, every time. So, you hear us talk about a few of the feeder pods that we have. So we have feeder pods for each of the regions. We have a Welsh language pod. We have a women's pod. We have a URC pod as well, which is all kicking off this week because somebody said something about Leinster fans. And then the South African fans are all having a go at each other. There wasn't even a URC last week. Trust me, it is all kicking off on there.
It was that Kalen again, wasn't it?
It's that Kalen. And he's fair play to the guy. So if you are liking what you're hearing and you want to hear more of the Rap family, then please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our various social media channels. It would be greatly appreciated on that. So let's actually talk rugby. There was only the one game of rugby last weekend, which was the Ospreys in European action. So every week I say stuff now, Nick, right, about the Ospreys in Europe, and there are a couple of Ospreys fans that get what I'm trying to do and get what I'm saying when I talk about attendance. So I'm not going to talk about attendance. What I will say is it was piss poor, but I'm going to let you talk about attendance because when I talk about it, I get grief, but we kind of agree on it. So let's talk rugby first, and then we'll talk attendance after. The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, well, 3 points. Three disappointments for me. Third one being attendance, and we'll come to that last. First of all, is we didn't play very well. You've got to give some credit to Leon as well. They were very physical around the breakdown and midfield. We didn't play the right game. We didn't manage the game very well. Dan Edwards didn't have his best game. I didn't have too many problems with some of the decision making, whether kicking for the corner as opposed to taking 3 points. Those if you get it right, you're brilliant. If you don't, not so good. I think it was more to me we kept on battering at their line and not going a bit wide and trying to get a little bit of physical dominance and go wide some of the time. Uh, Overall we won. And if you look at the stats sometimes can lie, can't they? And they do very much in this game. We made far fewer tackles. Our run meters were fine. Our defenders beaten were fine. We offloaded occasionally, but it wasn't really. We couldn't just drive home those advantages. The scrum was untidy, and I don't like having to go at refs, but there are times when possibly a different ref might have interpreted our dominance at the scrum in the first half in a different way. But you've got to manage those situations, and we didn't. Um, I still think, and I've mentioned it before, we have a reluctance in many of the teams in Wales, including the national team, to consider a 6-2 bench. They went 6-2, and the 6 forwards they brought on were very experienced, and they did, at the end of the day, make the crucial difference in the game. They won a few turnovers. The lad who I can't remember his name now played for France in the second row. He was very, very good, and he made a big difference. Uh, and if you're going to criticise perhaps our game management, you have to therefore criticise a little bit our coaching staff, including Mark Jones, because we had an opportunity. I didn't agree with Owen Williams necessarily being on the bench, but you have a 32-year-old experienced outside half. And if you felt we're not playing in the right areas or not kicking enough, you put him on 10 and you tell him with clear instructions, go on the field and kick the ball off the leather, get it up in the air, get it in the corners. So if that's a criticism of the way we played, well, that is also criticism a little bit of the game management by the coaching staff. Um, just really disappointed to lose another quarter final. Obviously, we didn't know how the Connacht and Racing result, how that was going to go. But had we have won that game, we would have a home semi-final, and a fantastic opportunity to get into the final. So it's disappointing in those two accounts, and obviously the third account. I was one of the 3 who were there. They just got up to 3,023. So partner and the partner's son were there. But it's shit, isn't it? A quarter final of the European competition, and it wasn't a Sunday evening; it was Saturday evening. The forecast was fine. The weather wasn't perfect when we actually turned up, but it's really, really poor. And even last season, there's 1,500 Ospreys fans who've disappeared in a season. Now, we were never the best supported region anyway, but for a big game like that, why are those 1,500 people? Are they just suddenly not interested in rugby? That they can't be bothered to get off their asses to get down to the stadium? They were going last year. So yeah, really, really disappointing all round. Uh, and next week now becomes a very, very week and an important week for us, because if we don't win next week, our season's over.
Well, I think what I will give credit to from last week was, I said that the Ospreys marketing team had pretty much let you down with the whole, we're closing in on 10,000, we're closing in on 10,000, all that kind of stuff. This week they were very honest. There was a very honest message. We can't hear you when you're sat at home, and I think that's a message that a lot of Ospreys fans need to hear. And I say, I know you're going to have a go at me on socials, guys. So, I may as well say what I'm thinking. You've got a team that is now playing really well. Last year, I said this on last year on the pod, that I totally get what Toby Booth was trying to do, where when you repeat a message that this is entertaining rugby, and you kind of go, Is it? Well, the boss says it is. So okay, this is what entertaining rugby is. When it really wasn't last season. It was winning rugby. Don't get me wrong. There was times last year when it was the way they were playing winning rugby, but it wasn't entertaining. So this year, Ospreys are kind of like going, well, we can't now say it's entertaining rugby because actually we are playing entertaining rugby, but we said that last year, and last year it was a bit crap. So now what do we say this year? And it's kind of lost its way. And for me, I appreciate the fact that the Ospreys did call out fans that stayed at home because yeah, you've got no reason not to go to that game. There's absolutely no reason not to be at that game. There's 140,000 people in Swansea within 15, 20 minutes of that ground that should be there. And with the best will in the world, and I'm not calling out Squid Rugby on this, okay, but Squid Rugby is a brand, and Squid Rugby, he's an Osprey supporter, and I get the fact that he's an Osprey supporter, and if any of us had the chance to be involved in our regions, we would snap that hand off and we would say, yes, I want to be involved in my region. Let me try and do something for my region. But his fan base is worldwide. His videos were about the World Cup, were about New Zealand, were about France, were about South Africa. Those are his big numbers. So that's where his voice lands. And yes, there's a whole bunch of people that would have gone, okay, great, let's go and watch Squidge Rugby. But he's not, his mass appeal isn't in Swansea. His mass appeal is worldwide. And the Ospreys' mass appeal is worldwide. The Ospreys' appeal is outside of Swansea. There are more people that support the Ospreys outside of Swansea than there are in Swansea. And I don't know how they rectify that. I don't know how they turn those people inside Swansea to go, do you know what? I'm gonna support the Ospreys. I'm gonna come and see the Ospreys. And that's the bit. That's why they've got, when they sell shirts, I think they sell the most replica shirts of any UK rugby team. And that's all the English premiers. I think the Ospreys sell more replica shirts than any of the English sides, any of Scotland, because it goes worldwide. The spread is literally worldwide. But those are not the guys that are coming to turn up on a Saturday and watch a quarter final of the European Champions Cup. So that for me is my point. I commend them on what they did last week, but I don't know if that didn't work. I don't know how you do get more than 3,000 in St Helens next year.
St Helens. I think everything hinges on this St Helens move because this is unsustainable now. And look, I've seen Ospreys fans say, well, we only had 6 days to sell tickets. I think, yeah, fair enough, but for a quarterfinal, a big quarterfinal, let's be honest, Ospreys playing really good rugby to get 3,723. I'm sorry, that's so bad. And I actually think that's inexcusable. Because if it was the other regions, for example, I know this is bad timing for Cardiff, right? Forget about recent events. But if this was them, I think they get close to selling out the Arms Park. Right? Yeah. If this was Scarlets, I think you could probably get what, 6-7K about that. And I think if it was a Ronnie Parade, I think Dragons would get past 5K. But for Ospreys to get sub 4,000, it's sad, and I just feel for the players more than anything because they just deserve better support. And I hear people say, "Well, I don't like the Swansea.com. There's no atmosphere," and I think, well, okay, fine, but people make the atmosphere. If you don't go, then yes, the atmosphere is going to be shit. But for me, I hope this move to St. Helens works out because it needs to, because this is really unsustainable now. And I do feel for the. I'm not having to go with the Ospreys. I'm not having to dig, but these crowds are really, really bad, and I just feel so sorry for the players because they deserve better support.
Jamie, I think I totally agree with you because if those 1,200 in the first instance who used to go to Swansea.com don't start turning up at St. Helens, we're under huge scrutiny. Performance-wise, when people start harping on about losing a team, performance-wise, they're going to pick on the Dragons.
Yeah.
But attendance-wise, you've got to pick on the Ospreys.
But why is that? Why is it though, Nick? Because honestly, I said this on social media the other day. I cannot work it out.
I can't.
Ospreys, in my mind, they are still the best team in Wales. You're playing really good rugby. Why can't they get 4,000 people in the stadium? Is the Swansea.com that awful? Because I've been a few times. I prefer to park at Scars, to be honest. I really do. But why is it then, Nick? What can you?
Oh, part of it, I think, is the uncertainty. People have just decided they ain't going to bother going there. But it is so key now, this next 12 months, that if we're looking at similar type of attendances at the new St Helens, redeveloped St Helens, well, there's just not enough interest in professional rugby in the Swansea Neath areas.
It doesn't make sense, though. They should be, shouldn't they?
Well, there is, but I know, but I say there's be a good thesis for somebody to try and work out. And in fairness to the Ospreys, I've had phone calls as a former season ticket holder. I've been contacted them by them a few times to say, have I considered renewing? And I think they have had greater numbers renewing. So I think what's happened is the season ticket holders. I don't think the clubs are very keen to publicise actually how many season tickets are bought year in, year out, do comparative data work. I'm sure that the Ospreys over the last 3 years post-COVID have gone down dramatically. But we're all post-COVID, so and that's why to have some context to it, I'd like to see what the Dragon season tickets have been like over the last year. Scarlets.
I think the thing now is we've each got one home game left. I can pretty much guarantee that the best attended home game is going to be the Dragons, because that's Judgement Day. Other than that, I think, Harley, you've got Munster, we've got Leinster.
That's usually a big one, but that's because Munster buck the trend in travelling support as well. They do. So that usually tends to be quite a big game at Cap.
Yeah.
That'll be a sellout. Because Cardiff are doing discounted tickets as well. And obviously with the recent events,
I
expect
I'm gutted I can't go because we've got a baby scan. So
yeah,
I'm not driving all the way back up from Devon.
Well, so we've got Leinster, so that should be a bit of a draw as well. The Fishguard Ferry is now working, so they can, they got 2 opportunities to come over. And then the Ospreys have got the Dragons. So, those are our last home games. Realistically, there needs to be a message, something from the Ospreys to go, come on, this is the goodbye, isn't it?
Last game, won't they?
Yeah. There's so much that you could do with it, though, isn't there? There's like you say, like Tipperick. There's, this is the last home game at the Liberty. Let's get some of the old players back. Let's relive some of the Liberty memories. Let's do all of that stuff. You'd pull out all of the stops just for that one last game, just to stop people like me talking about low attendance.
I think they're doing their best.
Tears coming home.
Well, exactly.
That's a tagline.
Yeah, the legend return. In fairness to the Ospreys, I think they're trying their best. And you mentioned it earlier. I did really like that message you put out. We can't hear you from the sofa. I thought that was really, really good message. And I like to see the Ospreys do that a lot more, because I've said it before, they do have a lot of armchair fans, Ospreys. They got a lot of supporters in Cardiff, in Gwent as well. I see loads of people. Funny enough, I saw a bloke on the bus this morning on the way to work with a Ospreys hoodie. So they've got supporters, but they just need to go to the Swansea.com. And I think the Ospreys, to their credit, are trying their best. But for whatever reason, it's not working. And I really hope that those people who stay away from the Swansea.com and say, well, we don't like it, we'll go to St. Helens, actually do put their money where their mouth is and go to St. Helens. Because what's going to be the excuse then if they don't get 5,000-6,000 every week? It's really worrying.
It is.
Well, so I'm going to make a new rule for commenting on our social media and our YouTube and all of that. You can only have a go at us for talking about the Ospreys attendance if you've got a ticket for Ospreys versus Dragons. They're the only people who are allowed to comment on our
That's
social media.
not going to work out for you. You are still going to get abused. because people don't like you and they're going to keep abusing
I'm
him.
not going to lie. I'm going to buy a ticket just to comment.
just so you can have a... Why has my wife just bought a ticket? What's going? Let's right. Let's move on from the Ospreys game. But before we head headlong into Judgment Day, just want to bring up a couple of things that I mentioned before. So we said a while ago that myself and Jamie were looking to step down for next season. We found a replacement for Jamie. I've got to say, more aesthetically pleasing on the eye. You know,
That's debatable, but he's better than me. Yeah, fair enough.
But no, so we've got a replacement for Jamie. We're still looking for a replacement for me. So given all the gobby Scarlet supporters out there, come on, boys. Somebody's got to want to.
Quite a few of those out there, isn't there? Let's be honest.
Quite a few of them. There is. Come on, somebody's got to want to come and have a laugh. It is good fun. It is good fun and it is enjoyable what we're doing. So, yeah, please do drop us a line if you fancy doing it because, yeah, because
if not, Dan from the Cardiff pod, he actually lives in Llanelli, so I'm just going to wheel him on every week to make Poncana jokes.
No, we're not. Right. The other thing was I did say that I would roll out a discount voucher every month, which I did for last month, and I've forgotten to do it so far this month. But that is coming as well. That should be there for next week, and then I'll roll another one out for May. So it's just about it's a way of saying thank you to our listeners and what have you. To it may be relevant to you, it may not be, but I will do that next week. Okay, let's talk Judgment Day. So before we talk about the rugby on Judgment Day, we did this not last year before. We said we were going to be at a pub before. Come and meet us, come and say hello. So Harley can't make it because he's got baby things to do and
I'm going to an aquarium.
So Harley's not going to miss us over Easter weekend, but the rest of us will be there, and quite a few of the boys from Feeder Pods will be there. So we are going to meet up at the City Arms round about, what time do we reckon, boys? Because what time's kickoff? 3, isn't it?
3, I think.
3 o'clock, the first game. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we reckon? About 1:30-ish, 1:30-ish?
Oh, bugger that before then. Let's get on it early, man. 11:30.
Jamie's got to drink through the pain.
Okay, Jamie will be queuing outside Tiny Rebel when the
I'll be
doors
there
open.
in Wetherspoons, 9 a.m, having a pint with my breakfast on an all-day sesh. So if you want to join me, carry on. I actually won't. I'll be there about 12-ish, I think.
Do you know what? When I used to live in Cardiff, when I used to live in Cardiff, international days always used to start at a greasy spoon cafe called Ramone's, which is still there.
Oh.
It's still. Have you been to Ramone's, Harley? So
I'm Cardiff alum, of course. I've been to Ramone's.
And they always used to. So back in my day, you place your order and they give you a ticket from the raffle ticket, and they always used to have like the 12-year-old son would do the serving up. So you'd get your little ticket and you'd go and fight somebody off a crappy table in the corner, and then this little 14-year-old kid would come out and go, "Blue 42, blue 42," and you'd have to put your hand up before everybody else went, yeah, that's me, just to prove that you were blue 42 and all that. It was good. We won't
Ramones.
be in Ramones.
I used to dream of going to Ramones. You're posh, you are. I used to end at Debenhams, $1.99.
I remember coming out of Ramones one day for it was Weps Cup final day. We came out of Ramones at about 5 to 11, and as you come out of Ramones, if you turn right and you look up the road, you've got Gassy Jack. And as you come out of Ramones, so we were coming out, and we used to live in that area as students. So we go, right, we're going to go on. We're going to have a couple of cans, and then we're going to head into town. And as we turned up, this guy flew out of Gassy Jack's door and threw up in the middle of the street, turned around and went straight back in. And this is like 11 o'clock. This is opening time and he's already throwing up. So So anyway, yeah, Judgment Day, we will be Jamie will definitely be in Tiny Rebel, which is next door to City Arms, and whichever bar is easiest for us to get to. If it's a nice day, we'll be outside. We'll be doing a little bit of Facebook Live and things like that, or recording interviews with fans. If you want to come and say hello, get yourself on the pod, by all means do. There'll be loads of that stuff going on for us. So yeah, please do come and do that. So let's talk about the games. So first game up is Dragons and...
No, it's not. It's Cardiff
No,
They
Ospreys.
switched it again.
You switch round this year.
Come on, Lee.
Switched it round.
Creep
I don't
up,
know. I just
Grandad.
bought the bloody tickets, man. I had to persuade the wife to go and watch Chitty Chitty Bang Bang so I could go and have a couple of beers after. Right, so I'm not joking. The wife's
know
going
you're
to
not.
go
I
watch
know you're
Chitty
not.
Chitty Bang Bang. Right, okay. So this is Ospreys home game,
Yes.
or right?
Home.
Who wants to go first?
What's our attendance average go up?
Right, so Nick, you get to go first on this one. Hopes and fears for this game.
Well, obviously we picked up a few injuries by the looks of things last week, and going back to Tips is still so important to us. Him going off for 7 minutes, I think even if he is half fit, they'll try and hold him back so they can sell that Dragons game as Tips' last game. Second row, at the end of the day, we haven't had an awful lot of Rhys Davis and Adam Beard, and I know Raleigh mentioned off air he wasn't quite sure Adam Beard was fully fit. Interestingly, Fender was on the bench, but also Will Spencer took a full part in the warm-up. So, okay, we will be able to field a couple of decent second rows. I don't know how Harry D's maybe back. We need a big response, and I wouldn't make too many changes either, because we lose on next week on Saturday. I think our season is possibly over, because we need to win the 2 remaining home games to at least have an opportunity to go to South Africa and try and pick something up there. So it's a really, really key game for the Ospreys season. And I'm not confident at all, but we'll see.
Okay, so Nick's not confident. Harley, this is going to be a competition between who can be the most downbeat about their own team. So Harley, how much are the Ospreys going to win by on Saturday, mate?
Hang on. Let's keep powder dry. We're not doing predictions yet. So look, I think Ospreys definitely got, even with their injuries, they've still got the power game to cause Cardiff all sorts of problems. It's something that we just keep showing each year. The one play we've brought in this season to try and combat the team's power game, Josh McNally, it seems like he's not going to be available because of his contract with the RAF, that he's going to have to play the RAF game, which is on at the same time. Which, is a game, happens at most Easter weekends. Again, going back to more of a wider point of how I think it's a bad weekend to have put Judgment Day on anyway, but that's by the by. I will never be happy about the placement of Judgment Day, it seems. So we've had 2 weeks to prepare for the Ospreys. Ospreys will be, you can argue that they're a bit battered from playing Leon, who are less than physical. Ultimately, they're also, alternatively, you could say they're battle hardened, which we're not, because we've had 2 weeks off after that disappointing showing against Connacht. The boys on Central Pod said maybe it was a good thing that we didn't play last weekend, and actually having this extra week just to sort of part the Connacht game, get through all this news, and then just focus, and then maybe that gives us the emotional boost that we need to win. I don't know. 2 years ago we got written off. We were getting written off during this fixture, and we went out and won. I don't know if it was just because it just so happened to be Lee predicted Ospreys to win that one game, and then it ended, or not. But I think Cardiff, in theory, Cardiff are going to have the fuller team. I mean, they've released some training videos, and it looks like near enough everyone's fit and firing. Josh Adams looks to be running back. Not too sure about Falatau if he's just been wrapped up in cotton wool. I mean, he in training week, he seems to be on very light duties most of the time anyway, because I think they just save him for games now. A bit like we used to do with Nick Williams. I think if we can impose our own game, I'm hoping that the experience that the Ospreys have with playing that sort of wide, expansive game plays into our favour. But if it gets even slightly closer to an arm wrestle, then Ospreys will win hands down.
So you are miserable about it. So you are.
I'm just miserable, all right? Leave me alone.
Okay, so Jamie, really quick thoughts on Ospreys and Cardiff on the weekend.
We'll do predictions later, but I'm really struggling to think who's going to win this one because Ospreys are Cardiff's Achilles heel. They always do a number on Cardiff. They know how to get under their skin the same way as Connacht do. However, I've got this feeling with recent events at Cardiff, the jockey, he's very good at getting his players up. Backs against the wall performance. And I will not be surprised if Cardiff put in a really big performance. Because I remember the last Judgement Day at the Principality Stadium when it was Dai Young, wasn't it? Remember there was, he left.
He got suspended just before, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Cardiff were in chaos then. They turned up and they stuffed the Ospreys. Thomas Young was outstanding that day. And I could see a similar thing happening. So I think all eyes are going to be on Cardiff, I think, on that first game. And I am really intrigued to see, because like I said, I do think Jockey is a very good coach. I rate him highly. And I think he is quite inspiring. And I think he will get his team up for this one. It could even galvanise them, I think. So Ospreys, yeah, they are favourites. They are. I still think they're the best team in Wales. But those injuries that we talked about, Tipperick, Rhys Davies, there's another guy out as well. Who else was out? Tipperick, Rhys Davies, and Beard. That's right. Those are big losses for the Ospreys. They do have better depth than the other teams. But yeah, I just wonder, because they've had a couple of really big physical encounters now, haven't they? How much has that taken it out of them? Because I have seen a few Ospreys fans on social media saying that they look tired on Saturday. Funnily enough, I thought that as well. So we'll wait and see. I'm looking forward to it as a neutral.
Harley, you were going to pipe in with.
I was just going to add to Jamie's point as well. The Sale game in 2023 as well, when the game straight after Peter Thomas's death, that was probably one of the best Cardiff performances for a few years.
Well, I was going to say something similar, that both teams have got a reason to respond this week. Cardiff have got the whole off-field stuff. Ospreys have got going out of the quarter final. Sometimes that can just deflate you and you're just not interested in anything. And other times it's like, let's defend the castle. And if the Ospreys can spin this as defending the castle, and Cardiff will definitely spin this as defending the castle, it's going to be, two. You see on David Attenborough where two bison just come at each other from 500 meters and just go bang right in the middle. It's going to be one of those games. And I can see fisticuffs. I can see handbags at 5 yards. I can see, running everything from your own line. I can see all sorts of crazy stuff happening. And I know I'm there to watch, ourselves beat the Dragons quite handsomely with a bonus point. But I think this is going to be the more kind of aggressive game, the more kind of old school game, the more gritty game, and this is the one that I think more people will be up for. So again, I'm gonna do my bit to Ospreys fans though again, but please stay. This is why we switched the games round the other way before, because everyone would stay for the first game and then disappear. And the thought was, well, they live in Cardiff, so they watch the Cardiff game and then they go home, and they can, if they're from Swansea, they can get on the train before everybody else, and then they can go home. Stay and watch both games. Stay, because I enjoyed watching both games. I mean, I was half cut by the end of the second one, but it's really enjoyable to watch both games when you do go, and you get to abuse the other. If you're an Osprey supporter, you get to stay and support the Dragons to beat the Scarlets. If you're a Cardiff supporter, you get to stay and support Scarlets beating the Dragons. There's a win-win every way you go on Saturday. Right, Jamie, let's do the main event. Let's do the important event. You can take your whole like we nearly went bankrupt and we're out of the European Cup. This is the important game on Saturday. So what are your thoughts about getting pasted by the Scarlets on Saturday, mate?
Well, first of all, I want to plug my pod that I did with Jason Tovey last night, Dragon Slayer, out now. Very funny guy, isn't he, Tovey? I know you listened to it.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
no fucks given. I love Jason Tovey. He's a Dragons legend. Yeah, so we reminisce about Dragons beating Scarlets, their first ever Judgment Day win back in 2019, that famous conversion. So we had a good talk about that. We also talked about the community game as well, and Welsh Rugby as a whole. It was a really good interview, so check that out. In terms of Judgment Day, I hope Dragons put in a decent performance because the last Judgment Day, Dragons were pretty abysmal. When we played the Scarlets on New Year's Day, again, we were abysmal. And look, it's been a wretched season. So if we win, fantastic. It doesn't change what's been a poor season. And if we lose, then, it's probably what everyone expects. And our league position is not going to change. So I think we can go there and just, I know Dan talks a lot about throwing a ball around, doesn't he? I know he's talked about that a couple of times since he's been on here, which is right. I do agree with him. I do think Dragons need to throw a ball about and throw caution to the wind. However, the problem with that is we don't do the fundamentals well. So chuck the ball about is okay, but set piece can't be creaking, defense can't be porous, and discipline has to be good. And then I think if you chuck the ball about, then it's fine. But we just got to do the fundamentals, which we haven't been very good at doing. I think it'll be a really good experience for young guys like Hugh Anderson, Joe Westwood, Brodie Coughlin, Dylan Keller-Griffiths, to play in that stadium. Jason did make a very good point that a lot of those players, they're not going to get the opportunity to play in this. They wouldn't do it for Wales, playing in that stadium. So it's a good experience for the young kids. We need to somehow contain the Scarlets back three because they are very dangerous, as we know. I don't know if Tom Rogers is going to be fit for this one, is he, Lee? Do you see him being back for this one?
He's been doing publicity this week, so that's a
Yeah.
pretty good guide that he won't be.
Right. So, I mean, Blair Murray, Ellis, Mee, we've seen how good they've been for Wales. It's probably going to be Max Page on the wing then. And personally, I think he's better on the wing than in the centre. So we got to try and somehow contain the Scarlets back three. The pack could be interesting because I made this point last night as well. A lot of talk about Scarlets, almost non-Welsh qualified pack, and there have been games where they've been really good, really effective. But there's been a few games as well where they've been a bit powder puff. So I think of Ulster away, Munster away against Ospreys as well as Swansea. Again, powder puff. And you've got ballers in that pack. You've got your Lousies and your Fifiters, so we know how good Josh McLeod is. But it'd be interesting to see how the pack goes for this one, because I think if they get on top of us, then that's one area you can target us. I'm hoping Johan Lloyd starts at 10. I don't want to pick on a boy, but that's definitely one area we can target. I don't know if Sam Costello is going to be back for this one, but even if he is, he hasn't played since January. So, he's going to be quite rusty, isn't he? Yeah, look, I'm not really bothered about the game itself. I'm looking forward to the day because I'm looking forward to meeting up with people, having a few beers like you guys are down there. We're having a pod meet up with Dragon Slayer, so Garth and Gavin will be going. So I'm looking forward to the social aspect, but in terms of this game, it's fine. The season's done. I'm not really that bothered, but I really would like to beat the Scarlets. That'd be quite nice, even to suck it up to you at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know my feelings on this game, Jim.
I know, that's why I said it.
Yeah. For some reason, the Dragons do just seem to get up for this game and give us a bloody nose. And it's like every time I go, that's the game where it doesn't quite turn out. I've only seen one Scarlets win at Judgment Day. I think I've been 3 or 4 times now. So yeah, for me, I'm a little bit. Am I the jinx? Does it every time I
so.
go there?
Let's hope so. We'll find out Saturday.
Yeah, we will. But the bit that I liked about your interview with Tubby was the bit where you went, so and you built him up. You built him up to so there you are. You've got that conversion, and you take the conversion, and you're the hero. You're the big man, and this is it. So talk us through those moments. Talk us through how intense that was. And he goes, I got a funnier story to tell you than that, though.
Oh, now I don't want to say it on you. Listen to
No, I
Dragons
know,
Late.
I
There's a
know.
very funny story building up to that famous conversion that he scored. Really,
Yeah,
but it does sum up Jason Turvey very
it
well.
was
Because I mean, any more laid back and he'd fall over.
exactly, yeah. But
He was good. It
it
was a good
was,
interview.
it
He was a
was,
dying breed of rugby player, of
Yeah.
just anti-perfect. Like, not that he didn't do his job well, but the fact that he was just like, no, I want to eat pasties. I don't want to do training. But screw that. What's tackling all about? Nah, bugger it.
yeah.
On a serious,
His personality is great. I love
yes.
Mm.
But on
everything
a
he does.
serious point of view, though, right? If he applied himself, Jason Turvey, applied himself the same way as Dan Bigger or Lee Halfpenny, he would have had 20, 30 caps for Wales. Because I always say he was a very talented player, Jason Turvey. When he was on it, very, very talented. But he said himself, I love rugby, but not that much, you know. And several times he said, I just couldn't be asked. You know, he didn't want to know playing for Wales or being in the training camps. He went, that's not me. I just want to stay at home and play Call of Duty.
I, I've said this a lot about Finn Russell, and that his
Yeah.
unique thing about how he approaches rugby is, for him it's just a game and a bit of fun that he just happens to get paid for. And Jason Turvey gives me the exact same vibe.
Yeah, he loves the social side. He said he loves playing for NST because he just said, yeah, we have a few beers after the game and people talk about what takeaways they're having. And he said, we don't talk rugby. They're not interested in rugby. Yeah, he's a good lad. Sorry, Lee, go on.
Anyway, yeah. So anyway, to get back to it,
Yeah.
yes, I am expecting Costello to be on the bench for Saturday. Yeah, back three. Fully expecting all of the international back three to be there. So Ellis, me, oh God, it's gone up my head. Well, one
Blair
can of
Murray.
beer, boys. One can of beer, and I'm gone. Yeah, Blair Murray. And yeah, Tom Rogers isn't going to make it, but there's a strange rumor going around that Steph is going to be back for this game.
Steph
Like,
Evans.
yeah,
That's
and I'm like,
interesting.
I'm going to go quickly
why?
change my prediction.
Yes. It's a strange rumor, but it's been a good
Dragons
week for
by
strange
50.
rumors, you know. So, yeah, there's people like, you know, Alex Craig that we were all expecting to be announced as going back to Scotland, and that's not been announced. And I would have expected that to be announced. So he's still got a point to prove. Let's say Laos, he's had a couple of weak games. You know, even Fafita's not the player he was last season. So there's a lot of people there that have got a bit of something to prove. And yeah, in the same way where you were saying, Nick, if you don't win this weekend, then that's it. You know, what's the point in playing on? If we don't win this weekend, then we have to beat Leinster. Well, I'm not being funny, but I'd back us to get 5 points out of the Dragons ahead of taking 5 points out of Leinster. So, you know, it's a really, really important game for us. I love the meeting up with mates and all of that kind of stuff. And there's people that you just walk past in the street and they'll go, "Oh, I remember you. I played against you 25 years ago." And I'm like, "Okay, there you go." So I love that element of it, but make no bones about it. This is a really, really important game for the Scarlets, and if we don't take it lightly, if we don't focus, then yeah, Dragons will turn us over because that's what they do. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping we take the game serious. I'm hoping that this is a really focused game for us where we go and we give ourselves an opportunity to make top eight, because we've all seen that table. Everybody is still in with a chance apart from yourselves, Jim.
All pressures on the Scarlets. You know, as I
Yeah.
said last night, you know, you guys have to win this because I noticed on the pod last week you said that's the game. Leinster is the one we have to get points off, and I thought, well, no, this is the game. Actually, you need to get points from because you don't want to be going into Leinster having to win. Whereas if you go there on the back of a 5 point win, it makes things a little easier, eases the pressure. So no pressure on Dragons. We're okay. I'm
No, and
happy with
that's
whatever happens. But for you guys not winning this, I think this is season done.
cheers for that, Jim. I'm going to put
It's
that.
true.
I'm going to just replay that over and over.
It will be.
No,
All pressure on
it is,
Scarlets.
and I think we now have to absorb that pressure and go, do you know what? We're a good enough team to live with that pressure. We are. There is an expectation that we win with 5 points. So let's go and do it. And that's the way it goes this weekend. Okay, right. So just a reminder, if anybody wants to come and say hello, we will be outside Tiny Rebel and City Arms. Kind of, I'm wanting to say 12:30, 1-ish, half one. Follow us on the social media. That will give you a good idea where we are, and you can come and have a chat. I know Hugh's come in, I know Gav's come in, Zach's coming down from the
Eerie.
Ospreys. Yeah, from the Ospreys. Who's coming? All of you lot are there anyway. Harley. They just need to literally wake up.
Pretty much all the Cardiff Central guys live in the City Arms anyway when there's no rugby match on.
So it could just be us lot in there and nobody else can get in through the door. So come and join us, come and say hello. It'd be good to meet you all. Okay, let's wrap tonight up then with some predictions. Harley, over to you, my friend.
So as it's been a while, just thought I'd go through the state of the league so far. And it is incredibly close. The last couple of rounds, Jamie hasn't done so well. So, everyone's back in it now. But he is still top with 116 points. Then it's me on 113, close followed by Nick on 111, Lee in his rightful place of fourth on 107. I do want to ask the panel now. So last year we did double points for Judgement Day. Do you want to do double points again, or just keep it at single points?
Let's do double.
I'm easy.
Yeah, we did it last time, so let's do it again.
Yeah, double or nothing.
You're only saying that because you're top and you do really well at this.
It means then he's guaranteed 4 points.
Yeah.
I'm worried though. I am worried because this is. Do you remember Newcastle United in the 90s when they had that 15-point lead over Manchester United and then they blew it? This is
blew it.
Right now.
Blew it.
I know, that's right. I'm Newcastle United right now, and I'm very, very nervous. I'm going to be overtaken in this prediction league.
I would love it if we beat you, Jamie.
I'm waiting for that. I was waiting for it. Yeah.
Anyway, Jamie, as you are top of the table for now, can we have your predictions for Ospreys, Cardiff, and Dragon Scarlets, please?
Okay, so I had Ospreys by 2, but the more I think about it, the more I just think Cardiff are going to put in a performance. After the events, I could just see it. I could just see a real emotional performance of Cardiff. So I'm going to change my mind and say Cardiff by 2. And as I said on Dragons Day last night, I've gone Scarlets by 7.
Go, Nick.
I'll go Ospreys by 3, although I don't really believe it, but I can't not put them to win. And I'll go Scarlets by 5.
Right, El Capitan, Lee, what are yours?
I'm going to go Cardiff by 5 and Scarlets by 8.
All right, cool. So again, I'm struggling to pick between Ospreys and Cardiff, but I've got to back my own theory. So I'm going for Cardiff by 2. And then just to be different, just for a maverick call, I'm going to go Dragons by 1.
Where's Nick gone? Nick's just disappeared.
He heard me say Dragons by 1 and just went, no,
he got scared.
Seriously, I'm not playing.
That was a sudden departure then, wasn't it?
That's not even a freeze before he left. I reckon he's sitting at a screen now going, where have they gone? What's happening? Right.
Bye, Nick.
But it's that one can of Wrexham lager, mate. It's done him.
He was slurring as well. Did you notice that on the pod? He was going to his head.
It's going to need some editing if you look.
Let's finish it up then, Jed. So last week I forgot to say to everybody, it was the first week that I've done this, and I forgot to say enjoy your rugby. So I am going to say it twice this week to make up for last week. Enjoy your rugby, everybody. Thank you very much for your time. Good night, gents. Enjoy your rugby. All the best.
No stop.
See you Saturday.
That was WRAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.